Hey guys, it's Decipher here. Today we're talking about Shisui the Teleporter and doing a character analysis on him. The most underrated Uchiha and quite possibly one of the strongest Uchihas in the entire series if you give him his full latent potential. Now, what do I mean by that? Stick around to the end of the video when we go into where I would rank a full power, unrestricted, full potential Shisui Uchiha. But before that, let's go into what we know about him. Now, unlike any video I've done in the past, I'm going to preference where I'm getting my sources from here. Because unfortunately, there's very little details on Shisui Uchiha that we get in the manga. So for this video, we're going to be going over things from the manga, from Itachi's light novel, from the anime, and from the Naruto video games. Now, if you want to say to me immediately, Jack, that's not canon, you can't talk about that, that's not part of his character, I understand. That's why this is the only time I've ever done this in a video. But, like I said, there's very frustratingly little of Shisui Uchiha that we know is absolute canon. The stuff that we are speculating on, whether or not the canonicity of it, I think just fits his character very nicely, and I don't really think Kishimoto has many objections to how people are presenting him. So, in my own headcanon, which is what most of these YouTube videos are about, we're going to be using all the details of everywhere he appears in media to give us a good idea of who Shisui Uchiha is. If you guys want to turn off though, because that doesn't sit well with you, that's go right ahead. But let's start getting into it. The first thing that we know about him is that he's a descendant of Kagami Uchiha. Who's that, you ask? If you don't remember, he's the teammate of Hiruzen Sarutobi and Danzo Shimura, who were under Tobirama Senju. He was said to have saved the two of them quite a lot thanks to his Sharingan powers. So he was, like, Kagami Uchiha we know literally, like, nothing about. But other than those few key details I've given you. But from the way he's presented narratively, he definitely seemed to be an incredibly powerful shinobi. Up there with the likes of your Danzos and your Hiruzens. Probably not as strong as Sarutobi, and like not even kind of relative to him, but I would have said he was relative to Danzo. At least a Danzo without implanted Sharingan. But either way, Shisui was descendant from a very powerful Uchiha clan member. He was the breadwinner of his family. He lived with his parents up until he was a jonin and his father had gotten sick. And Shisui went through what a lot of people in real life go through when they have older parents that start going through things like dementia. He had to suffer with his father not being able to recognize him. But Shisui, being a very pragmatic man, was able to understand that all things must come to an end. And that's the way he looked at his father's passing. Unfortunately, I don't think we have any key details on what happens to his mother. But if we go off his father's age, you can imagine she either just passed away by natural causes or, unfortunately, was taken out by Itachi. But I think she probably would have passed in by herself. If I'm misremembering that, it's been a while since I've read the light novel. Let me know down in the comments about his mother. I think it's not stated though. Anyway, once he graduated the academy, he became a Jonin in just 4 years. On his first year as a Genin, he watched his best friend die. And it was something that he viewed upon himself as it was his fault in his mind. Because the way he tells it is that his friend and his comrade here had gotten stronger than Shisui was. And Shisui was always considered a prodigy, and Shisui was feeling a bit jealous and envious. So when their timer came in combat, where Shisui could have stepped in and intervened to save his friend, he hesitated for just a second. And that second or those seconds were enough that his comrade died. And watching him die is what activated his Mangekyo Sharingan. And we'll get into that in a little bit. That's a huge source of Shisui's strength. But regardless of the Mangekyo Sharingan, it's this character development that we get here that's the most interesting. because Shisui feels incredible guilt over his actions here. Just going to show the differences that he shares with a lot of his clan, because Shisui and, you could argue, Itachi are the only Uchiha members that we see that are able to overcome the curse of hatred that the Uchiha clan suffer with. Shisui was able to go through his whole life without succumbing to that. A lot of it probably had to do with how pragmatic he was. I think that pragmatism came into account with not... because we know that the Uchiha's curse of hatred springs from their deep love. But because of how pragmatic Shisui looked at things, I don't think he fell for that desire. Now, we don't necessarily mean romantic desire here, as we know. Shisui had a best friend, and then when he met Itachi, when Itachi was 5, I believe, he became best friends with Itachi and became like a brother to him. So Shisui was definitely capable of feeling love, but he seemed to be pragmatic enough to not let that overwhelm him, is how I would say it. So he's one of the very few Uchiha that was able to overcome that, which is just a truly, truly incredible feat when we see people along the lines of Sasuke and Madara that would succumb to that curse of hatred. So it shows an incredibly strong amount of willpower that Shisui possesses. But like we said, just his kindness as well. To feel guilt over those actions and to regret them for the rest of your life, and with what he does with everything revolving his clan, which we'll get into in a few minutes, it just goes to demonstrate an incredible level of kindness that is not only rare to see in an Uchiha clan member, but also in a shinobi at this time. Because when Shisui became a genin, when he was born and alive, they were going through the Third Shinobi War. Him and Itachi were born into a time of war where killing and succumbing to that hatred that we talk about was just par for the course. That was expected for how you would react to things like that, the type of man that you'd become. But Shisui didn't let that stop him. He didn't let outside interferences affect his own morality. And that is one of the truly great things that you can respect about Shisui. It's his moral character, his steadfastness in what is good. And we'll get into that a little bit. So he became an Anbu after he became a Jonin, so about 4 years into being a shinobi. I don't believe we ever get specific ages for, like, when he became a Genin, when he became a Chunin, but I imagine he probably would have been fairly young. With his prodigious talent and the way he's hyped up, he probably was a Jonin at 12. Or maybe a little bit older. He's definitely a Jonin by 14, I would say. Let me know down in the comments, though, if I'm misremembering something here. I've tried to touch up a little bit on my Shisui knowledge, just skimming over his wiki page really quickly. But most of this is just coming over from my own prior knowledge. So if I'm making any mistakes, let me know down in the comments. But I don't think an age was specified. But he becomes an Anbu leader, and he meets Itachi. And the prodigy is recognizing the other prodigy here. Because these two boys were the crux of the Uchiha power. Like that, at that current day clan, it was those two that held all the power, even at young ages like 12 and 13 and 14. Yes, Fugaku had a Mangekyo Sharingan, but the way it's played out is that Fugaku wasn't able to beat his son, Itachi. And an important detail that we'll keep getting back to in this video is that Shisui is narratively implied to scale above Itachi. Now, you know what, I'll touch on this now, but I will go in full depth when we get into his power section. Itachi Uchiha, you could argue, was stronger when he massacred his clan compared to when he fought Sasuke. I wouldn't even say argue, it's pretty much implied that. Because we know his sickness gets the better of him, and his eyesight deteriorates. So when he's taking on Sasuke, he's incredibly weakened. His most prime level of power would have been when he first awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan, and that was at thanks to Shisui and his actions, which we'll get into. This is important because For the whole time that these two men knew each other, or boys knew each other, Shisui was always said to be the strongest of the two. He was shown beating Itachi in spars. The way that Itachi would look up to him narratively implies that Shisui was stronger, and the fact that Itachi said later on in life that if Shisui had survived, he could have resolved the Uchiha clan coup d'etat without resulting to bloodshed. Something that Itachi himself confesses he couldn't do. Now, of course, we know that's thanks to his genjutsu ability, but I think it's just another narrative implication of kind of just shining light on the fact that Shisui was more powerful than Itachi. Now, we never... sorry. Short-circuited there. We never see a full-on powered clash between Mangekyo Sharingan Sasuke versus Sasuke, what am I talking about? Mangekyo Sharingan Itachi versus Mangekyo Sharingan Shisui. But the fact that Shisui was kind of toppling him without Mangekyo, I reckon if he activated his own Mangekyo Sharingan, he would probably be more powerful than Itachi. But Itachi with Totsuka Blade and Yaramira is probably another argument. But then you also have Shisui's Genjutsu, Kodomara Tsukikami, which I'm probably going to butcher. I probably butchered it then, but I'm probably going to butcher it even more in this video. But we're kind of getting sidetracked a little bit here. I just wanted to touch on the fact that at this current stage in their lives, from when Itachi slaughters his clan, spoiler alert, that Shisui is said to be stronger than him, because that's going to be an important part to play. But Shisui catches on to the fact that the coup d'etat is happening and that he's insightful enough to realize the implications of what that's going to mean for the village. Because while he loves his clan dearly, which he does, he loved his parents, he loves Itachi, he loves the members of his clan. So a man like Shisui, with the kindness that he possesses, wouldn't not be able to love his family. But he also loves his village, and that's where the pragmatism comes into play here. It's something that he shares with Itachi. Or to be fair, it was Itachi who got it from Shisui by idolizing him. The pragmatism here is that in Shisui's mind, if a coup d'etat happens, and whatever side wins, whether it's the Uchiha clan or the Hidden Leaf Village, it's going to weaken the Hidden Leaf Village as a whole, which is going to make them susceptible to outside attacks from other villages, which will lead into a Great War, which Shisui is trying to prevent because he's lived through the Third Great Shinobi War. So he's going to do anything in his power to prevent more deaths. And he learns that Itachi's aware of this, that Itachi's kind of being manipulated by Danzo. He learns about this because his clan, the police force as well, ask him to spy on Itachi, because they kind of know that he's up to no good. Itachi is too valuable in the Ombu to risk his position being compromised, so they need to know what's going on with him, so they send Shisui there. And thanks to that, Shisui learns about what's going on. I'm not sure it's ever actively stated on the screen or on the pages that Shisui thought that a potential outcome to resolving this matter was wiping out the Uchiha clan. Because he wouldn't have been okay with that. Because with what he gives his Sharingan, his Mangekyo to Itachi for, it's to use on the clan. But so I don't think that he was ever aware that Danzo was scheming about making Itachi wipe out his clan. I don't think he would have been okay with that. Even with... That's the thing. Even with the pragmatism, the reason why I don't think he would do that is because he's been compared to Naruto. Or Naruto has been compared to Shisui by Itachi. Because they're both characters that would... When there's thought to be no other option, they're the type of characters that will find an option. They're the ones that will think outside the box and find a solution to resolve things without bloodshed. And if we're taking Itachi as a credible narrator, then we should believe that Shisui is capable of doing just that. Resolving that situation without, maybe not without bloodshed, but without the whole clan being wiped out. But Itachi and Shisui come to a plan, and it's to use Shisui's Mangekyo Sharingan. What's this Mangekyo Sharingan ability, you ask me? It is called Koda Marasuki Kami. Like I said, I'm going to probably pronounce that 3 or 4 different ways in this video, and they're probably all going to be wrong. But it's a genjutsu ability, in layman's terms, that gives the user the ability to mind control anyone. So we know that most genjutsus are mind-affecting abilities. They make people feel illusions. They make people get confused. They can even make people become, like, not enslaved, but impact the person's thought process in what they want to do. Mind control them. But Shisui's is so powerful that when he uses it, the person in question doesn't even know they're being mind controlled. It is... Okay, what I'm going to do here, if you didn't know, all my recent videos, the last 2 weeks worth of videos, uploading every day, guys, they're all non-scripted. So if you hear me going on tangents here and talking over myself, that's why. And that's kind of what's happening in this video. So his powers and his story, I'm going to kind of mix into one and go from there. Because one thing that we need to get into about this Kodomaka Tsukikami ability is that it's almost reality bending in a sense. It's not. The fact that isn't Nagi can do something like that, though, kind of makes it a little bit credible to think that it kind of does have slight reality warping powers. But I'm not saying that it does. That's hyping it up. That's jerking it off way too much than it probably deserves. But what happens is that Kabuto Yakushi revives Itachi Uchiha with the Forbidden Reanimation Jutsu. And that jutsu enslaves the victims to the master, which is Kabuto. And it enslaves their minds to follow all the directions of Kabuto's orders. But it also enslaves their bodies to react the same way as well. We see this when some characters have the mental thoughts of not wanting to do actions, but their body reacts without their autonomy. The third one was close enough. It was still wrong. You know what I'm trying to say, though. That's kind of what I meant by a little bit of reality warping powers. Because what Shisui Uchiha's Genjutsu does is that when Itachi is a reanimation, he does some shenanigans that makes him come in contact with Shisui's Sharingan, or Mangekyo Sharingan. And what Itachi has implanted into that Mangekyo Sharingan is a code to protect the Leaf Village at all costs. And he never thought that he would use it on himself. He thought it'd be something that may have been used on Sasuke. But the Mangekyo Sharingan technique gets used on him, and it breaks Kabuto's control over him. Which is crazy, crazy stuff, because it's showing mind control on a higher level than a perfect, reanimation jutsu. And it's not just freeing his mind, it's freeing his body. And here's where I'm not going to say it's, reality warping type of shit, because when the reanimation jutsu allows people to have their emotions and not want to commit actions, but their autonomy works against them and has them move without their volition, you could just argue that it's all just stuff going in their brain that's causing their body to react, but it's also different parts of the brain that's controlling the emotions. That is probably the most likely scenario, but that's the reality warping power I was kind of bringing up as, it's just overrided the whole jutsu entirely, and it's made it be protect the Leaf Village, and it's kind of overrided the actual physical limitations on the reanimation jutsu, if you kind of get what I'm meaning there. The fact that Izanagi does something similar about rewriting reality, it's not, it's a highball with the potential of the Kodomaka Tsukikami, but it's not, so highball that it's, out of the realms of possibility. But it is most, if you had a gun to my head, it's probably most not likely that. But I was getting into this because it was showing just how powerful this ability is. It's essentially... we see it mostly used. Shisui uses it to convince hidden Miss Hunter ninjas, their version of the Umbu, led by Ao, who is the hidden Miss Jonin with the Byakugan, who name drops Shisui in the 5 Kage Summit. It convinces him and his teammate to flee. And how should I say this? Shisui is able to use it on them without making direct eye contact, and he's like I said, he's able to do it to the point where they think they're making their own decision to retreat, even though he's the one that's manipulating them into retreating. It was also used on Mifune, the leader of the samurai, without him being aware of it. It was used, like we said, to overpower the reanimation jutsu. So it is serious, serious stuff that we have here. And while it's mainly used in situations like we just showed about Shisui convincing Ao to leave, or by Danzo using it on Mifune to bring him around to his own cause, or by protecting the leaf through Itachi, it can also be used to get an instant win on anyone. Because you can just mind control them to lay down their arms and let me take you out, or unalive yourself, or you now longer don't have any access to your chakra. It's an instant win move that doesn't even need eye contact. This is where we're in the end where we're going to get into like full potential shenanigans that he could get into. But while we're talking about it, he's getting Ao and everyone to retreat. That is just another showing of Shisui's kindness and how he'll do majority of things to avoid bloodshed. Bloodshed is always a last resort to Shisui, which I reckon is very, very commendable, especially for an Onbu Black Ops member. I see the comparisons with Naruto there. It's a very Naruto-esque move. I also reckon he probably would have become a better Hokage than even Itachi. Because we hear that Hashirama Senju compliments Itachi about, he would make a better Hokage than even me. Not this dumb YouTuber, Hashirama. But I reckon Shisui would have made a better one. We see that Itachi, a very, very kind individual, but also falls back onto some more bad traits. Not as trusting as Shisui. Now, trust can be a double-edged sword, like we know, but used wisely in the hands of someone like Shisui, it's not naivete. It's wisdom, it's wiseness that he has with this trust. Itachi is a lot more extreme than Shisui. Like we see with him not being able to resolve the massacre without massacring them. Good one there, Jack. So I do reckon Shisui would have made an excellent, excellent Hokage. And I could definitely see a what-if scenario of Shisui becoming Hokage after Minato. I reckon that they kind of share as well their speed aesthetic. As we know, as I introduced him in the beginning, he's known as Shisui the Teleporter because his body flicker technique is surpassed by no one other than probably Minato because he was said to be the best at it. But he was so well renowned for it that was his epithet. He could do it without like any flickers of existence. He just disappeared into nothingness. He was that quick with it. But we've kind of gone over Shisui's kindness, about how he was doing anything to prevent the Uchiha clan from going into war, and would have made steps to prevent the massacre. How he doesn't just murder people like Ao and his allies who are enemies to him. And how he just seems to truly, truly care about others and those around him. But how does he die, you ask me? Because as we know, he's not in the series much at all. Everything we see from him is post-mortem. So, Danzo, the decrepit old geezer that he is, the manipulative bastard that he is, doesn't share Shisui's resolve in the fact that he can truly stop the Uchiha clan incident. Danzo doesn't trust anyone. That trusting nature we talked about there, that Shisui possesses and that Danzo doesn't, because in Danzo's mind, he needs to take things into his own actions. He needs to be the one that handles it. That trust is the perfect example of why Shisui would have been a great Hokage and why Danzo wouldn't be. And that is great writing by Kishimoto there because of what Donzo actually does to Shisui, the fact that he might be able to use underhanded means to defeat him physically, but in the battle of morality, in the battle of philosophy, in the battle of being what the Leaf Village actually needs, it's Shisui that comes out on top. So Donzo interferes. Different mediums play this differently. The anime says he invites him over for a meeting. Other things, there's like sneaking up. They encounter each other, and Shisui has his guard down, and Donzo strikes. But Shisui's able to handle him easy enough. He restrains Donzo and beats him instantly. Now, this is important to note because while Donzo isn't using as a whole arm full of harvested Mangekyo Sharingan, he's still someone that was on the team with Hokage. Now, Hiruzen was one of the strongest Hokages, but Donzo without the Sharingan, I wouldn't say he's Kage level. He would probably be just below that, though. Just below a weaker Kage, I would say. And Shisui handles him effortlessly. Now, what Shisui doesn't know, and you really can't blame him for, because he wasn't expecting Donzo to have this. Donzo uses Izanagi, and that overrides reality, and Donzo's able to pillage one of Shisui's eyes. Shisui then goes Susanoo. He has this really badass green-looking Susanoo that can fire out spear projectiles, and he has a spear in one of its hands that can rotate really fast, and he can use his Katon Jutsu, his fire jutsu, to make it like a fire tornado spear to like skewer people, and he handles the root members super easily. He gets away. Now, after he gets away, Donzo kind of leaves just happy that he's able to get one of Shisui's eyes, which makes sense because even now that Shisui's onto him, he wouldn't be able to do it to him again, so he's just going to take what he can. But Shisui has a very emotional moment with Itachi. He's explained the situation that Donzo's taken one of his eyes, and that he's probably going to come back for one of his other eyes. He's never going to stop for it. Shisui's only been able to stop him temporarily. And Shisui reckons that he puts his faith in Itachi. That he thinks Itachi's going to be the one that saves the clan and the village. So he does two things for Itachi here. He gives him his remaining Mangekyo Sharingan, which allows Itachi in the future to save the world. Make no mistake, Itachi stopping Kabuto saved the world. They wouldn't have been able to get away with that with all those reanimations running around. So Shisui's insight, his insightfulness there, literally just saved the world. Give him a tick for that. And then he also unalives himself. Now, I need to say this because of YouTube regulations, but he throws himself off a mountaintop, essentially. And in doing so, it awakens Itachi's own Mangekyo Sharingan. So he's giving Itachi quite possibly the greatest weapon in the Naruto series, and then giving Itachi a weapon that's nearly just as good for himself to wield. Like, and Itachi with, his Mangekyo Sharingan, with all his Totsuka blades and Yadamiras, with Shisui's Kotomaka Tsukikami, is quite possibly the strongest character in the series that's alive at that time, so obviously not including people like Madara and Hashirama and stuff like that. And Shisui talks about how he's his best friend and all this type of stuff. They have a very, very heart-to-heart, and he trusts Itachi with it, and he unalives himself. The effects of Shisui's death is that none of the clan believe that he killed him, that he didn't say anything there, YouTube, that he unalived himself, because they knew what type of morally good character that he was. His beliefs, his determination, his just moral compass, that he wouldn't do something like that. So they speculate Itachi's the one that ended him. Which is just another feat to Shisui's kindness and morality. But Shisui makes it seem like he crushed his eyes when he unalived himself, so that He gets rid of the thought process from Danzo from trying to find his remaining eye. And that's something that he would have done in character if he did unalive himself. He most likely would have crushed the eye so it wouldn't fall into bad hands. So even... No, like, this is my thing with him. He's unaliving himself for the purpose of making his friend stronger, for protecting the world by leaving his eye in the hands of someone that's trustworthy, by having the thought process that he's saving his clan and that he's saving his village. And he does this all with the actions of unaliving himself. He's a truly, truly selfless character that just didn't get enough screen time. I could have a whole spin-off anime of just Shisui. But Shisui unalives himself. We know how the story goes. Everything with Itachi then. So that's pretty much all the main details about Shisui and his life and his character. Now we're going to get into the juicy bits, and we're going to talk about his powers and how strong he is. You can already see why I think he's the most underrated Uchiha, because no one really talks about him in like power scaling. Now, I'm no longer a power scaling channel, so don't expect a bunch of calcs and stats and stuff. It's just me doing this in a fun, enjoyable way. But definitely an underrated Uchiha. At the time, I would say at a low ball, he's as strong as the strongest Itachi form. Like we said, the strongest Itachi form is Prime Itachi at the massacre of the Uchiha clan. That let me. I'm just trying to think. When do we think Itachi gained his spirit weapons? And do we think that Shisui would be able to defeat Itachi? Let's discuss that first. So full-powered Itachi, I reckon he would. And here's why. I don't think that Itachi, like, there's no real counter to Shisui's Kotomakatsuki Kami. We know that it works on people that possess the Mangekyo Sharingan, because he was going to use it against Fugaku. Now, we're going to touch on people that it might not work on. But for right now, I don't see any real counter to the Kotomakatsuki Kami for Itachi. I think it just one-shots him. Like, in canon, this obviously wouldn't happen. But if it was, bloodlusted versus bloodlusted, we had our controllers up their asses and we were controlling it. Oh, X, Shisui uses his Mangekyo Sharingan, Itachi goes down. There's no real way that I see Itachi being able to counter it. Perhaps if he could maybe use Tsukiyome, but the way the Kotomakatsuki Kami worked on the reanimation jutsu, I reckon that if Shisui was trapped in Tsukiyome, he could use Kotomakatsuki Kami to overpower that and trap Itachi in a Genjutsu, or in the Kotomakatsuki Kami, all while making it think it's Itachi's idea to end the Tsukiyome and then just take Itachi out. That's just my headcanon, but it makes sense to me that he would be able to do something like that. So yes, I even reckon if you gave Itachi full power, Susanoo, with his spirit weapons, and not being sick, I reckon Shisui would still be able to just one-shot him. Now, ways that Itachi could potentially get around that is with speed, trying to dodge his line of sight and stuff and get a quick one-shot Totsuka Blade kill in. But the fact that Shisui was faster than him, and his whole epithet is the Teleporter, I don't reckon Itachi's fast enough to be able to accomplish that. Like, Itachi would just throw Blitz out of the way, and Shisui would either just match him or surpass him, and just boom, Kotomakatsuki Kami, game over. So, in my headcanon, we've established that he's stronger than, we almost got through this whole video in just one go, but I just got into a coughing fit and almost freaking passed out. How I can be sick for now over a week is just ridiculous. But, sorry about that. Let's get back into it. So he's stronger than a peak Itachi, full power, unrealistic stats. He's stronger than him. Now, what can that Itachi do? He's beating Orochimaru effortlessly. He's beating Sasuke effortlessly. He's beating people like Deidara effortlessly, Kakashi effortlessly, Naruto effortlessly. He's showing that he's above Kage level, and that is an Itachi that we're not talking about here, because that's a realistic Itachi. We're talking about an even stronger Itachi, so he's like high Kage level, in my opinion here. He is literally just below the tier of people like your gods of this world. Actually, that's a poor choice of words. Literally below people like normal Madara, normal Hashirama, people like that. I reckon that this version of Itachi we're talking about is beating everyone below it. Even people like Sage Mode Naruto, Pain, stuff like that. Say, like we know that Genjutsu would work on Sage Mode Naruto. We don't know if it would work on Rinnegan Nagato. I'm just trying to think. No, it should take down Nagato as well, because Nagato is susceptible to sound Genjutsu with the Sage Song. Sage Song. Did I just make the Frog Song? I just made a whole new technique up. So I don't see if he would be susceptible to that. I would imagine he would be susceptible, even though it's a visual Genjutsu, to the strongest visual Genjutsu. So I reckon it would take down everyone other. This is Shisui here now, because we're going over the fact that he's taking down this level of Itachi, other than your Madara level opponents and below. Did I just get a lot of people arguing me down in the comments, calling me an idiot? Probably. And who knows? You're probably right. You're at least half right, definitely. But let's have a civilized, I'm not going to come at me, boys. Let's just have a civilized conversation down below about that statement that I've made there. Do you kind of get why I'm saying that? With his speed, like, that's all we need. And we're not talking about in-character fights. We're talking about controlling them ourselves as if we were playing him in a video game. If he just has the speed amp, well, not an amp, but the speed necessary and superior than most people with a one-shot Genjutsu technique, I don't see how he's not taking down everyone below that tier of strength. Like all the Kage. It should take down all of them. Let's get in to some of the people that it might not take down, because this is where we could get into some fun. Now, this is just headcanon for me, because we don't know enough about the ability. Perfect Jinchuriki. I don't think it would work on a perfect Jinchuriki. Then again, we see Obito be able to put Yagura in a Genjutsu, and he was a perfect Jinchuriki. But I don't really know how Obito was able to do that. That might be thanks to some Hashirama cells in him that gave him the ability to control someone like that. But even, like, maybe he can just control a perfect Jinchuriki. If Yagura was getting controlled, I don't see why Naruto and B wouldn't be either. So if he can do that, put those two on the list that he's defeating, because like we said, it's a one-shot kill. Strength doesn't matter. Boom, you're done. So leave that down in the comments though. Kodomaka Tsukikami, would it work on Perfect Jinchuriki? I was going into this video thinking that it wouldn't, and that I was going to have an actual kind of list of characters that may be able to negate it, but it looks like I could be wrong. Because I just don't see, if it works on Yagura, a non-Kodomaka Tsukikami, I don't see how it wouldn't work on like your Naruto's and B's. But then we see like a Mangekyo Sharingan Genjutsu not work on B. Am I just being a dumb idiot and missing something like completely obvious? I don't know if you should answer that or not, because I probably am. Leave it down in the comments though, what you think on that. Other people that may be immune to the Kodomaka Tsukikami. Madara, and people that possess an eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, which, is essentially Madara and God Mode Sasuke, but we'll get into that later. When I say later, I mean like a minute. Because I could see an argument where it wouldn't work against an Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan user. Absolutely no rationale behind that statement, other than my own headcanon of it being the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan being another higher level than Mangakyo Sharingan, so it might be able to override it a little bit. So I could see that being the case, but I could also see it still working on Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Hashirama, with the most powerful ability in Naruto, the Hashirama cells. It's literally the hard counter to everything, so that might have some potential to work as well. Other than that, people of just a god tier strength, kind of like we see in One Piece about Hack's abilities not working on those that possess supreme levels of Haki. His Genjutsu might not work on the Otsutsuki clan, and I definitely don't reckon it would work on Ten Tails Jinchuriki and I had my mind completely shut down then. And Sage of Six Paths, Naruto, and Sasuke. So Ten Tails Jinchuriki, Sage of Six Paths, Naruto, and Sasuke, and who did I say? And the Otsutsuki clan. I would say. Did I just repeat myself there? Let me just. Otsutsuki clan. Yeah, Ten Tails Jinchuriki and goddamn Sage of Six Paths, Naruto, and Sasuke. I'm an idiot. I did get it right the first time. So those three, I reckon it would probably definitely not work against. But, like, I could see the argument of it working on Hashirama and Madara. But then it's like, we're ranking Shisui above them, which just seems a little bit narratively not right. But my mind's not being able to handle this. I just can't think, unless you just go off Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan and Hashirama Bolix being able to overpower it. That's the only way I see a true, like, if you guys say to me it works on them, then I want you to argue in the comments how they would still be able to win. Like I said, if we're controlling the characters. Because he just teleports, boom, you're gone. Like, what? There's no way to get around it other than a very select few individuals that we mentioned. So, how strong is Shisui? I asked you that in the very beginning. How strong is he? If we're going by the logic that Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan doesn't negate Kodomakatsuki Kami, then he is the strongest Uchiha other than Sasuke in Six Paths mode. His power from Hagoromo and shit like that. I reckon he's the strongest Uchiha. Because, like, he's not... If we use, like, a magic bar to, like, measure that, his strength, he's not stronger than people like Madara. But his ability is so hacks that it allows him to beat stronger opponents. So I would say he's the strongest Uchiha if Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan Kodomakatsuki Kami works on. If it doesn't, I would rank him the third strongest Uchiha underneath Madara. I've completely forgotten someone. Let's rewind a little bit there. I'm not going to cut it, because this is an important part, guys, about making these type of videos here. Seeing where I went wrong and, recanting. In terms of if his Mangekyo Sharingan works on Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan users, then it goes God Mode Sasuke, Ten Tails Jinchuriki Obito, then it goes Shisui, then Madara. All these characters have too many goddamn forms. Jesus Christ, Jack. It goes Sage of Six Paths Madara. It then goes God Mode Sasuke, Ten Tails Jinchuriki Obito, and then it goes Shisui. But if we're getting rid of all those Bolix modes out and just going off regular Uchiha without Six Paths mode or Ten Tails Jinchuriki, and you say that the Kodomakatsuki Kami works on someone like Madara, who has the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, then Shisui is the strongest goddamn Uchiha. Am I going to risk titling this video the strongest Uchiha, Shisui Uchiha? Do I want to take on all that heat down in the comments? I'll think about it. Now, if it doesn't work on a normal, if it doesn't work on Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan users, then the list goes Madara, Sasuke, then Shisui, so he'd be the third strongest Uchiha. Because, like I said, I'm getting rid of all the nonsense modes out of it. We're just talking about as strong as you can get being a regular Uchiha. He would be the third strongest if it doesn't work on an Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan user. If we had an Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan full-powered Shisui Uchiha, he would be the strongest Uchiha, in my opinion. Because that, to me, would then counterbalance the potential weakness of it being immune to Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. If he possesses it himself, he should be able to overcome that. Fight me about it down in the comments. Please don't. Just let's chat about it nicely down in the comments. Strongest Uchiha, fully powered, potentialed Shisui. This video is getting long enough. I've got so much work to do. I literally just came on here because I thought this was going to be a 20-minute video. It's probably now 50 minutes. One thing I do want to mention, the naming technique of his genjutsu here. Koda Matsuki Kami. You get what I'm trying to say. I've been trying to say it the whole video. I still haven't gotten it yet. Shinto mythology. That word sums up the 5 supreme heavenly gods that were the gods of the Shinto myths. So they're essentially kind of like the primordial gods in Greek mythology, if you know anything about that. And they're always, it's basically the upper echelon of each gods in their mythology. People like Shiva and Bahamut and stuff like that in Hindu and everything along those lines. I would love to discuss mythology in a separate channel. If this channel ever really starts kicking off and we get an audience, I will be making a second channel doing movies and TV shows and doing mythology. So if that's a hook to get you guys subscribing, get you guys watching it more, liking these videos, I promise you those are things that I'm going to do in the future. But with mythology in this part, it's Kishimoto, in my opinion at least, showing that this technique is the highest level of Mangekyo Sharingan abilities. Because moves like Izanami and Izanagi is like if we have Kotomakatsuki Kami gods, the Izanami and Izanagi are the second tier gods, so they're kind of like the titans in Greek mythology. And then abilities like Susanoo, Tsukuyomi, and Amaterasu, they're like the third tier gods of the Shinto myths. So they're your Zeuses and your Poseidons and your Heras and stuff like that. So, Greek myths is the most common, that's why I'm comparing it to that. And it's a great comparison there of the 3 different tiers, the 3 different echelons of strength. So to me, that kind of sums up the Kotomakatsuki Kami being by and end all the strongest aspect of the Mangekyo Sharingan techniques. So that, to me, it makes me feel more confident saying that he is the strongest Uchiha in the series that aren't God Mode Uchiha. And if not, he's the 3rd strongest Uchiha if it doesn't work on Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. And if he's full-powered potential, he's the Daddy Uchiha. Now, I'm expecting lots of hate and lots of arguments down in the comments. But it's been a great pleasure talking about this. I get into a video, like I said, expecting it to be 20 minutes long, and boom, we get into an hour-long classic. Classic? Is it a classic? I'm calling it a classic. I reckon we'll be looking back on this video. But I've been Jack Cypher. It's been a pleasure deciphering the Shisui the Teleporter. Peeps, have a lovely day. Love you all. Cypher out.